I hear everything one way, even though they say I don't pay attention. I do everything the same as the way I did it last time. Still you see my life is pitiful, that I'm selfish and predictable. Though I have no voice to disagree, I don't wanna change. The one that you hated.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dad Talk Today. We are starting our second week on this new call-in show. Man, I got a ton of voicemails in here last night, so we're going to make sure to get to as many as we can. Let me get a couple of announcements out real quick before I bring on our guest. He is joining us back today, Mr. Robert Garza. We're going to be doing two shows today. I've been doing a replay of the morning show every night at 8 p.m. Eastern because I know during the day, a lot of people are at work and might not be able to see it. And I want you to hear us as we listen to your voicemails. But tonight, we are restarting the show. And the plan is right now, I'll have to let you guys know, to do this every Monday night. Attorney Chris Smith is joining the show. If you got family law questions, I got to put the disclaimer out there. This does not make him your attorney. This is not legal advice, but you are talking to an attorney, and he is answering the questions that you're going to give him. Okay. And the only ones that we're going to be able to take, it's not going to be like it used to be with the comments. You'll have to call and leave us the voicemail and use this new system, 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. Whoever gets their questions in first has the best chance of getting them in there. So, guys, please call and leave those to us. With that said, I'm going to bring on Mr. Garza. What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going this morning?
Oh, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I guess it's getting a little cold here in Georgia. So I went to bed feeling fine. I woke up this morning like, I don't want to leave the bed. I got out of it anyway, but I guess, I don't know how you feel about it. When I was younger, dude, I couldn't wait for summertime. One, because school was out, but the other side of that is you get to go swimming, you get to go to the beach and everything. As I get older, I love the fall, man. I love it when it gets cold. I know you don't.
No.
But there's something about, the leaves falling down, the weather and everything. But the other thing that comes with it, I haven't been, funky with sick or whatever in a while. So, but that is not going to hold us back today, man. I was talking to you a little bit before this, man. I've really been enjoying being able to connect with these guys and hearing these voicemails. There is a difference. We've always read the comments and made the audience a part of this show. But when you can hear their voice, you can almost hear what stage they're in. We have become so familiar with this fight and the things that people go through. You can almost tell, like, they're at the beginning, they're in the middle of this, they're just in a frustration period, they're just venting right now, they don't know where they're going. And I think it's good for us to foster these conversations because, you guys, no matter how bad that case is, there's somebody out there that understands it. Promise you. You're not navigating this alone. So, guys,
we come in the support group. There's a lot of us that know what you're going through and have been through it, and that's why we're all here. Definitely reach out.
So, I want to give a shout out to my baby girl for my birthday. She gave me. I love the little sentimental gifts. You never know what you're going to get, dads. And you know what? If you hold in there, your underwear and socks is coming. Okay, you'll get to switch them out. We know that's coming for Christmas. But no, she got me a gift for my birthday. Just want to talk about it on the show real quick. It's like this little bracelet right here. And I was like, what?
Uh,
It's Morse code. Mine says dad and hers says daughter. So we got like matching bracelets. And when she comes in every day, she's like, Daddy, you got your bracelet on? Got it right here. I've taken it off
that's
a few
cool.
times so it doesn't get broke. But yeah, man. What's some of the sentimental gifts you guys have gotten from your daughters or your sons? Some of you didn't have daughters. That's all I have. So when I talk about kids, a lot of times I go straight to the daughters, man. But what's your daughters mean to you, Robert? I know you have a very close bond with your girls.
Oh my gosh. Girls are different than boys for sure because I have both. But my daughters, they're amazing, and so are my boys. It's just different. It's a different bond.
It's different.
Well, you have all girls, so yeah. Like my daughter, you're talking about gifts. We went somewhere. I can't remember where we went, but they had like this old army tag thing that they were doing, like the necklaces, the dog tags. So on the back, my daughter's always into puzzles and figuring out things, and those lock-in rooms and stuff like that. So what I did was I put "Love You, Dad" in like the alphabet, like not the alphabet, the in numeric, right?
Yeah.
But it looks almost like a serial number. So one of these days, she's going to figure out the code actually says, if she decodes it, the numbers, it actually will be, like A is number 1, B is number 2, so it actually spells out "Love You, Dad," except
That's cool, man.
code. Yeah.
That's really neat, man. Guys, it is Thanksgiving week. Before we get into your calls, I said I wanted to talk about some random subjects every once in a while here, so we're kind of mixing in the seriousness with it. But Thanksgiving week, you're going to be doing any cooking, Robert? What is your favorite food on Thanksgiving?
So I always bring something. We always go to my wife's family's on Thanksgiving, but I always take something spicy, and it's always a dessert. So this year I'm probably going to make habanero coconut macaroons, but they're amazing. I'm telling you, you bite into it and it's sweet, and then all of a sudden you feel this burn down your throat, and you're like, wait a minute, what is that? So they're good.
You definitely got the Latino in you, man. I mean, this guy eats pepper on everything. I have never seen anything like it. Whether it's dessert, breakfast, you got his hot sauce, he's ready to go.
Oh my gosh. If you take grapes and you peel them and put them in butter and fry them and then put like strips of habanero in them, they're amazing. Like just crazy stuff.
Habaneros, man.
Yeah.
Great. What is one of the crazier combinations that you eat with your peppers?
That one that I just described. So my girls, that when they were growing up, they always liked peeling grapes. Like they didn't like the outside of the skin, so I would peel it. So one day, all my friends were here, so I was like, oh. So I peeled a bunch of grapes and then I fried them in butter, and I was pouring it. Well, before I put it over ice cream, I put habanero in it and fried it in there with it, and then poured it over ice cream. It's actually really good. It sounds weird, but it's amazing.
I'm going to take your word for it. I tell you, I mean, there's some of these combinations that you don't think would go together when we talk about food. And it's like, don't knock it until you try it. I'll tell you one that I thought was just absolutely ridiculous was Burger King at one point in time. I don't know if you guys remember this. Burger King had a bacon sundae. It was a hot fudge and caramel sundae, but instead of peanuts on top, it was bacon. And I thought it was so ridiculous and such a terrible idea that I tried it. And there's something about the sweet and the mixed with the salty that just pops, man. I'll tell you another one. I got a buddy that's a chef, and we used to go to this club that I was booking bands up in Atlanta. And one night when he was there, he got this burger that they had made, and then everybody kept saying, "You got to try this," and I was like, "What is it?" It was a cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger on a Krispy Kreme donut with a fried egg. One, I'm not a fried egg person, but then the donut and everything, I was like, that is going to be ridiculous. That's a little bit more popular than it was back then. This was a good while ago. And they finally talked me into it. Again, man, sweet and salty goes together. So maybe the sweet and the heat, I could definitely see that. I mean, I guess
Mhm.
barbecue when you're making a rub, you're gonna
Yeah.
have the brown sugar and you're gonna have the pepper in there. So I can't fathom habanero and ice cream.
You know what's another good one? And most people wouldn't even like put it in there. So cut up strawberries in your tacos. It's weird, but I promise you, cut up habanero. I mean, cut up strawberries in your tacos, and then drizzle it with like a balsamic, like a thick balsamic. It's amazing.
Man. Jason says I put hot sauce on my fruit like oranges.
Ooh, that
I
that's a little extreme.
could I could
I've
not.
never done that.
You haven't done it, but I
No.
guarantee you'll be trying it later on today.
Just
Guy,
like see the tomato hot sauce, I'm like, eh. I like just straight pepper, peppers.
just straight peppers.
Yeah.
I got you, man. Guys, if you're watching in on this, just humor us for a minute. What is the craziest combination that you like to eat that many people might think was crazy? I tell you, I had a girlfriend when I was in middle and high school. Her thing was mayonnaise. Dude, I hate mayonnaise. But this girl ate mayonnaise on French fries, on her chicken. Everything you could imagine was just globs. I'm not talking about a little bit of
Mm,
mayonnaise. I'm talking about like globs that thick mayonnaise is. What? You like mayonnaise?
no. And I hate mustard. I hate mustard even more. So
You don't like mustard?
no. Like I cannot stand mustard. I don't know what it is. Mustard and wasabi. Those two things, I love hot heat, all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of uh, condiments, everything. But mustard and wasabi, I can't do.
So that kind of reminds me, man. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the show, especially being Dad Talk Jackass. That was out in like the late '90s, early 2000s. They had the other side of that. It's kind of interesting how that whole show came together. There was actually separate groups, and Bam Margera had his separate thing that he was doing called CKY with his brothers and everybody, and they would mix in music and skateboarding with the stunts and stuff. And they had that guy, if you remember Viva La Bam, his name was Rake Yon. He was the one with the long hair that was real fuzzy and everything. Anyway, he hated mustard. And several of those old CKY videos, if you go back, they're just chasing that guy with mustard, and he would go nuts. He's actually like a chemist or something like that now, and he was talking about because of the chemicals that are in mustard. So
Oh
the
wow.
reason that I'm saying this, I know that's just completely random, is I'm gonna have to see what I can do with mustard next time we're around, Robert.
No. I'm telling you, even the little bit, I will not eat. Like, I mean, they put it on my like a Sonic burger or something by accident. As soon as you like, I even get close to it, I can smell it. Like, I'm like, done.
Dude, you know what? I see a lot of this on TikTok now, but I'm telling you, I was one of the originators on this. I'm sure somebody else was doing it out there. But I hate mustard too. Except I do use it to cook with one thing: barbecue. If you get ribs or Boston butts or whatever, before you put on your seasonings, use a layer of mustard and then put on your seasonings. You will not taste any of that mustard when it's done. I promise. It cooks
Yep.
into it, but it's a binder and it keeps the seasoning on there and then like mixes with the smoke. That is the only time I use mustard. And I've been doing that for years. Guys, if you've never done that on your ribs, I'm telling you, pull that little back skin off, rub that sucker down in mustard, throw some seasoning on it, and smoke it. It's amazing.
I do the
Amazing.
same thing with pork loin. Pork loin is the same. And when I put it in I rub it with Dijon or whatever.
Dijon. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's something in the mustard, man, and it helps it make like a good bark. I like that thick, black crustiness on the outside. A lot of people call that burnt. That's my favorite part. You ain't eating that, something's wrong with you. But anyway, we got on a whole topic about that. So what's I know you said you was going to take some type of dessert, but what is your number one food that you're waiting on for Thanksgiving, Robert? Are you a turkey guy, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes?
I don't know. Turkey's good, but all the sweets. I'm a sweet person, so all the sweets. I'm huge on sweets.
Tell everybody what your breakfast is
Bluebell ice cream and Coca-Cola
every morning,
every morning, and
and,
with
and a Snicker bar.
yeah. So if there's no Italian cream cake in the house, then I'll do Snickers or something like that. But at least for breakfast or for dinner, after dinner or whatever. So
God has such a funny sense of humor, right? Because this guy can eat stuff like this. Okay, and you're about 10 years older than me. How old are you now?
47.
47. Okay, and we know how it gets older. I mean, worse as you get older. I'm 38. He can eat Bluebell ice cream, drink this huge ass Coke, eat a Snickers bar, and stay skinny as a beanpole. If I even looked at that man, I would blow up. I'm constantly having to go on a diet. You know I am.
Oh yeah.
I got
It's
a big,
metabolism. I
big
mean,
man.
my kids do it too. So
Yeah, I guess it's just those genetics. I got screwed. I got bad credit. As Ralphie
that's funny.
All right, guys. We're going to get into these call-ins. Thank you for letting us humor you this morning. I still would love to hear some of your crazy combinations and put it in there. But give us these voicemails 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. Guys, my inbox is slammed right now with people saying, "Hey, can you help me with this, with family law or whatever?" I'm not an attorney. I think sometimes people think because we're dad talking, we talk about family law stuff, that there's something that we can do on their case. I'm not the legal guy. Robert, you're pretty damn smart in it, but there's plenty of parents in the support group that you can bounce it off of. But attorney Chris Smith being here tonight is huge. Okay, guys, if I had a question for family law back in the day, it was going to cost me $400 or $500.
Yep.
And that's like per hour, right? They're going to charge you that consultation fee. So to have one here that if maybe you just need some direction or you got a question. And another thing I like about this is sometimes we'll talk to attorneys in this community and they'll tell you how to maybe fight your case, but don't go back at the system as much. Chris wants to see this system go down. I mean, Robert, what was your thoughts? We met him when we was down there in Texas at CPAC for the
Yep.
National Fatherless Roundtable. We had never met Chris before. This was our second National Fatherless Roundtable that we had been invited to. We did one on Capitol Hill up in D.C.,
Hmm.
and then the next one was down in Dallas. Attorney General Ken Paxton and several different people was there. That one was a little bit different. I talked a little bit more when we went to DC and tried to, make sure they knew the problems with family law. But when we got to Texas, I said, you know what? And this is good for any advocates or organizations out there that are trying to bring awareness about the situation. A lot of people get caught on statistics. They get caught on all these different things when they talk to legislators and they're trying to get over this issue. And I'm going to tell you, man, especially for people that might not be like personally dealing with it, there's only so much of that sinks in. And so one thing I've noticed is some of these stories, if you can keep them brief, you gotta learn. You don't want to word vomit like we've talked about. But if you can learn how to condense down your story and get it in a good way, those have impact, man. So that day when it was my turn to speak, I got up there and I made it as quick as I could. I said, look, guys, I could tell you all the fatherless statistics. We could sit here and talk about this problem all day long. You've heard them before. Rather than do that, I want you to hear from a father that was affected, and that was in for me. And I handed the microphone over to David Henderson. This was just, I don't even know, it was a month since his son had passed away. Robert, you saw it too. There wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Oh yeah, it was very emotional. Everybody was just like quiet and listening.
And I knew that. I was like, I can get up here and tell them the problems. And that's why, guys, your voicemails and stuff, people hearing your stories. It's one thing for me and this guy and everybody else coming on the show saying, there's a problem, there's a problem. But when they hear from the people that are experiencing the problems, it gives credibility to why we're trying to fight. And so when David got up there and did that, that was powerful. And then one of the next speakers was Chris. And I'll never forget, he was like, everybody needs to turn and listen to Dad Talk Today right now. He's like, I don't know where these guys have been, but there was just this huge amount of respect. And we found out here is an attorney that is going and writing legislation to get dads equal rights. He was getting several different bills in there, and it wasn't on behalf of an organization. It wasn't because of some incentive. And that we just don't see that, man.
Nope.
We don't see that because, I mean, let's be honest. These attorneys, they went to school for 7 years, as crooked as the courts are. That's what they had planned to do for a living. So when they get out there and talk about this system, they're attacking their own livelihood. So you don't see many of them doing that.
He's one of them.
He was the exception, man. Chris is the real deal. And that's what I said, guys. This is an amazing opportunity for you to connect. So make sure to get those voicemails in. Whoever I get first are the ones that are going to get played. And we're only going to have so much time while I got him on tonight. 762-441-0281. We are going to get on to our first caller of the day.
Yes. No, this is Martin Garcia calling out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Yeah, I was just commenting right now because I was just wondering, like, is adultery still a thing? Because I brought that up in court and they completely ignored me and sided with my ex-wife. I believe fathers should have equal rights in court because if us fathers committed adultery, they would bring it up right away and tear us apart and, of course, still favor the mom in court. And I really don't think that's right.
Well, I can tell you right now, he's fighting the losing battle because you only have a 7% chance in Texas. He's from Corpus Christi, so he has a 7% chance to be a primary parent. But as far as adultery goes, courts don't care. You can do whatever, unless you're beating your spouse or there's family violence. It doesn't matter if you bring up they were the worst parent or they were committing adultery or they were, I don't know, they committed adultery 8 times while we're married. That courts really don't care about that anymore.
They don't. But I mean, he brings up a great conversation. We talk about it every once in a while. But that's what I was talking to Dwayne about it the other day. They should. I mean, there's cases I know, like, say my personal case. I don't like dipping into it too much, so I'll be vague on details. But that happened with me. I thought everything was good until bam, and then you find out, hey, somebody you think you're married to has went outside of the marriage. Now they're going to want a divorce. So this person that not only committed the adultery is now going to go for this divorce, and because of the bias in court, they have the upper hand in this situation. So I can commit adultery, I can get the kids, I can get the house, and do everything. I mean, the only time that anything with marriage is enforced is when you divorce and they want the child support and want you to fight in court. But as far as that commitment, that contract is basically what you're signing with the state. When it's violated, I think it's similar to false allegations. One of the reasons why false allegations is so severe is we have no consequences. Well, that's what happened when no-fault divorce came in. And now they say, we're not going to count that anymore. And then you're taking somebody, this is a really hard one because we want parents to co-parent, right? But now you're taking somebody that just found out my wife or my husband was sleeping with somebody else, and now they're dealing with those emotions. Now they're dealing with the divorce. They're dealing with work. They're having to deal with who's going to get what and everything. And it just doesn't set up the playing field to get some healing. Stuff like that is going to take time to heal for sure. I don't know that. I wish, man, and I know what, and I know there's going to be some guys on here that might have been what you did. And I understand that. Okay. And everybody deserves a second chance, but it's one of those, like, if your partner didn't see that coming and they think they're married to you and then that happens, I don't know, man. I think no-fault divorce really, Ronald Reagan, who is the one that created it out there in California when he was governor, later said it was the worst thing he did when he was in office because divorce just skyrocketed. And just to give you guys an idea of how bad this problem is, I think it's over 70% of the time that the woman is initiating divorce now. And the majority of those cases is because she's already got somebody else. She's already in another relationship while you're still in the old one and trying to figure out what's been going on.
You're behind.
You're behind the 8 ball on that. So, I mean, you got any thoughts on that, Robert? I'm going to turn my air down real quick.
Yeah. On the divorce thing, courts actually, I said they don't care, but it depends what judge you have. If you get a woman judge that is, very strict on family values and a man committed adultery, you are hosed. First of all, you're hosed because the system's stacked against you anyway. But if she brings that up to a woman judge, it's going to be bad for you. Now, just the reverse, I've seen it, with women doing it and men bring it up. And if it's a man judge, they're just like, well, things happen. Let's move forward. They try to look, forward. It's not the kid's fault that you did this or anything else. So it just depends what approach they take. But you're as a man, the court system's stacked against you already. You have a 7% chance, like I said, in Texas, and he's in Corpus Christi. So bringing stuff like that up is, like you said, the judge just can't ignore it. So.
Well, I've said several times that I think we are fighting a culture war here. We are fighting a culture war. How sad is it that has become normal, and we've kind of gotten desensitized to that process? Talked about it earlier, or last week. And for those of you that didn't hear it, I'm gonna go through it again really quick. Me and my wife, she does so much for me, and then my way of connecting with her, I come down to her level a little bit. We watch Hallmark movies. That's our thing. I haven't done it in a while, but there for a while, it was like every night. That was just our thing to come out here and, connect. But dude, I got through about 5 of those movies back to back. Every one of them started off the same way. Woman is engaged. She's about to marry a guy. She goes off on some trip, gets stranded. Her car breaks down, something. The knight in shining armor comes by, starts paying her attention. Now, because boyfriend or a fiance is trying to find out, what she's doing, is she okay or whatever, he's looked at as controlling, and now this new affair gets glorified, and it's like the affair saved me. And this is what I was telling Dwayne the other day. I've heard the excuse, especially in domestic violence organizations, they like to say that adultery, especially for women, is their way out of a relationship because they're with an abuser. They're with somebody that's so bad that if they don't just get in another relationship, they'll never be able to leave. And I call baloney on that. I say, if you got enough time, you can go sleep with somebody. You can get a way to do that. You can get a way to get a divorce. You can get a way to get some protection.
Or to fix your marriage.
Or to fix your marriage, man. And that's what I would love to see more people doing this. Man, guys, let me tell you something. We've got lots of, I don't know what it is about Facebook, YouTube. They've really got to start cleaning this up. The little spam bots, man. It has gotten so bad. And I just want to announce this on the show just in case, because they get in the comments. We have no control over it. It was funny. I had one, I don't know if you saw it the other day, that came on there and like her bikini top and had the triple D's and everything. She's like, I'm so lonely, hit me up. And I was like, lady, I got a billionaire that would love you. And he said he'd be with you right now. You just got to call him on WhatsApp, 1-800-YOU-SCAM. And everybody started tripping out on it. But be careful. If you see these guys down in the comments, at one point in time, somebody was making like 10 or 20 profiles a day, fake dad talk, and messaging our people and telling them they were giving away $5,000. I can promise you, I've been doing dad talk for a while. We ain't got $5,000 to give away.
No.
But some people's going to fall for it. So if you see that, please report it for me. It's a long way of saying we want to make sure we get that out there. I just had one of them try to do it. It's the internet, stuff like that's going to happen. But all right, man. I am thinking about doing some type of giveaway. I'd love to hear from the audience. I have to be careful when I say giveaways because that's when those scam pages start showing up. But I thought about some type of giveaway. I got some more of these Dad Talk Today shirts and cups and stuff like that I'd love to make sure we got it out to the audience. But I'd love to make some type of contest. I thought about like best dad joke of the week and then letting people get down there and vote like which one they think was the best.
Yeah, they can put it in the comments and then people can just like it, and whichever one gets the most likes, then, you know, best dad joke gets the most likes, then send them a t-shirt.
Yep. Anyway, so we are going to get our second caller of the day.
What's up, Eric? This is Jason Ramirez. You know, I know. I'm a struggling father, trying to be the best I can. You know, I just want to leave a message for everybody saying, you know, time does heal your wounds, and it does come back to you. And my 21-year-old son this year, finally, this is going to be the first Christmas I have him. I'm going to have him. And since he was, you know, like 3, it's pretty awesome. You know, I'm over at my other son's house right now. We're house sitting, and I have, what can I say, my stepchildren. I don't know if they're like my stepchildren, but my son's brother and sister. Life's been all right, bit of a challenge. I've been in and out of the hospital, you know, for my mental status because of, you know, parental alienation. Stay alive, gentlemen. It gets better, and I love you. All right, bye.
You know, I just want to give a shout out right now, man. There's some of these guys that have supported us from the very beginning. A lot of times I'm seeing new people, and I love meeting new people. Jason has been around since the very beginning. And so I did see some posts that he was putting out, I think earlier this year, about finally getting to reconnect with his child. And those are stories that we love to hear. I mean, if anybody has gotten some of those, and these guys need to hear that too. Here he's talking about what he said, 21 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the first Christmases. So even though it seemed prolonged, there is some type of relief. And Jason, I appreciate that call so much. I appreciate you supporting Dad Talk, man. You guys might not, you know this, but even if you can't donate, which we haven't been asking for donations, if you get on here and you like, share, subscribe, or you get on here and you interact with some of these other guys that are going through this and become a listening ear, that, man, dude, that is huge. You guys have no idea how huge this is, because we are fighting a very hard topic that many people don't want to hear. I said we're fighting a culture war. So to have our guys here and supporters and to hear a little bit of that good news, I do want to touch on one thing you said, Robert, and I want to get your thoughts on that. He was talking about having to take care of his mental health while going through this alienation. Guys, that's a very important thing. And I think it plays many, many tricks on you. As PTSD, I think, is very common from parental alienation. I don't think it's recognized enough. I don't even know if they recognize that in court, but you go through this horrific family law battle, or an abusive relationship, or a woman that hit you, or, you know, cusses you out, or just belittles you all the time. It has a lot of PTSD that comes with it. I mean, it would be similar to a guy that's going to war. I think I would have rather went over seas and fought in a war before I fought with my ex sometimes. Like, I just didn't want to connect.
Well, it makes more sense why you're fighting a war overseas, right? At least you have a reason. These are your kids. Why are you fighting with me over this, you know?
Yeah.
And then the false allegations. The sad part, you know, with Jason and a bunch of other people or whatever is, you know, when you're going through this and you get accused of things, it does give you PTSD that the next time somebody, you know, says something that's not true, it affects you because you've been through this, that you have PTSD over it. So something so small that someone would think, it's like it was nothing, but you accused him of something, that they didn't do, no matter what it is, right? Like, I don't know, whatever it is. These guys that have went through this, and some women too, they're more, what do you call it? Sensitive to people making allegations, and that is the PTSD from it.
I've been thinking with it being Thanksgiving week, I'm not too sure. I've had people want me to run a marathon or something. I might just replay some of the shows that we've done over the last week throughout the day. But I do feel it important. Thanksgiving will be 2 years since John Mass came on the show, which was just a couple of months before he was murdered. So what I'm going to tell you guys, this is very, very important. One of the conversations, it's weird how we had this conversation and you don't realize the importance of it until later on down the line. Like, I'm so thankful that I went over this with him, because had I not, we might not have known,
Yeah.
For any of you parents that are being alienated, do not underestimate that. Or if you go through these false allegations, or you don't get to see your kids on the holidays, or what have you, write a journal. Write a journal. One, even if you can't talk it out to somebody, write to your kids. Let them know what your emotions were right then. Remember, you got to protect their heart too. Not so much of, oh, I'm writing you to say your mom did this, 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 and this. Write them, telling them how you're missing them, that you love them, and that you're fighting for them. Just something like that. And then maybe a journal for you, for what you are experiencing right now, just so you're getting it off of your chest. And that was something I asked John, which I normally don't ask guests. He said he had them. So when we found out he was murdered, dude, I called the family right away and said, he told me he was writing them and that he had this documented. He did.
Those journals proved showed what kind of state he was in going through this. He was, he put it all in words and everything. And it's super powerful now reading it, later, knowing that he had passed away, of what, the dark places that he was at. Because he didn't really express those things very, I guess he wasn't very expressive to his family, but he was in writing.
Yeah. I mean, I beat myself up a lot on that one. Because I was like, I wish I would have known just how bad it was, or was there something I could have done? He had reached out. What could I have done? And when you're grieving the loss of somebody like that, there's a lot of those doubts and, did I do the right thing and stuff that you replay in your head later on. But, he was a good guy, guys. And I guess that's my way of saying, when he was on here, I didn't realize how important that stuff was, right? I didn't know that was going to happen 2 months later. So there might be somebody out there that thinks everything's okay right now. He did too. When he came on that holiday, he was told he was finally going to get to see his kids after this 3-year battle. So not to get on a grim note right here, but we do have to get out the truth sometimes. This might save somebody out there.
Be careful, be safe.
That's it.
At all the drop-offs, pickups, record everything.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are going to get on to our next caller. Keep those voicemails coming. 762-441-0281.
Hey, Eric Carroll, Dad Talk today, Jeffrey Morgan, and the wonderful team. They're doing a lot of incredible things for our fathers. I am Riti Chikadur, the executive director of Our Children Matter Most, headquartered in Austin. We know each other through mutual contacts, but I wanted to reach out and talk about two things. The first is I wanted to reach out to those fathers who are not going to be with their children this holiday season. My heart goes out to them. I hope they do find a way to make it through this holiday season. We don't need any more fathers gone because they couldn't deal with the stress. So I'm glad you have these lines open. The second thing I would like to talk about is that we have we as an organization have support of NAACP in Austin, looking at the violation of our children's rights. So we have some interesting and very excellent campaigns. The first being a Shanti Walk or a Peace Walk, which you may have seen and we have advertised. It starts on November 20th, 2022, and we'll be walking every day at the Texas State Capitol between the hours of 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. For more information, I would really like dads that listen to your show to go to our website, www.ourchildrenmattermost.org, and reach out to us as well for support. We want to hear their stories and we want to help. So moms and dads and grandparents, we're all important. But guess what? You know who's most important in all of this? Our children. Our children really are the most important. So thank you for all that you're doing, and hopefully you will play this comment. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, man.
So I've spoken to her before. It's a human rights issue is kind of what the NAACP is thinking on this. You know, you have inalienable rights from the Constitution, and when courts start taking those rights away, that becomes a human rights issue. And so that's kind of the process of what the NAACP is looking into this as a human rights issue.
You know, I mean, when she was talking, one of the things I was thinking about was, you know, grandparents. We've talked about it, but, you know, every time there's an alienated parent, there's alienated grandparents. There's a whole alienated side of the family. This is just such a big problem. And I wish we could get some more of the grandparents involved. That's like the closest thing to a parent there is out there. And just knowing that there is going to be some family missing their family this Thanksgiving. Man, I don't know what we're going to do for Thanksgiving yet. That's when it's a lot of work, but I definitely want to get something going for you guys. But you know, just think about that too. You know, somebody's out there. It's not just a mother or a father thing. It's grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings. There's so many people that want to love this child that's not being gave a chance. You know, I know there is situations, Robert, where grandparents can be a part of the problem. I don't know how any grandparents out there could see their child doing this to their grandchild's parents and not get involved and tell them, stop what you're doing. One thing I've seen nowadays, now as a parent, I do believe, yes, you need to stick up for your child. You need to have unconditional love, but you also need to have that discipline, right? Because if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it is your job to make sure that they know you don't agree with it. But that is such a big thing with alienation. That, you know, when this alienating parent does this, they have that protection from their family. And that is so wrong, because they could be, you know, some of the relief on this. Yes, you're taking up for your child, but you're hurting your grandchild, right? And they don't look at it that way. They just don't. And it's sad to see that. It really is sad to see that. Just because they're your child doesn't mean you can't call out the bad actions. That means you should do it even more.
Yeah.
Right? So
they are missing a whole other side of the family, you know, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, everything. You're not just alienating them from you. They're alienated from everybody. So
yep. All right, guys, keep those voicemails coming in. 762-441-0281. We're going to get on to our next caller.
Hi, my name is Wei, and I'm from Malaysia and currently in California. I do have a questions about have an upcoming custody trial coming up, and my wife has made allegations, like crazy allegations, that she's afraid of me, that she's afraid I will kill my kids and kill her and kill her mother. And I went and got her mother's which is my ex-mother-in-law's restraining order against the father-in-law, and it's almost exactly the same, word by word. And how can I use that for my trial? Like this insane allegation that I believe it was written by the mother-in-law and trying to take the kids away from me. And yeah, so that's my question for thank you. Hi, my name is.
So the first thing he can do is tell his lawyer that there's a pattern of history and establish that, and hopefully that will be able to come in, that the mom did the same thing. Second, if there was never any cops called while he was married or in his relationship or any CPS involvement, he can show that there was nothing before the divorce. And that's a big telltale sign to authorities and to the court that if you just throw that out there, you have to front load. That's what my friend Brad Nace always says. He's like, front load like crazy. So front load and say, look, there was no history of any violence, no cops called, no CPS involvement before this. All of a sudden now, and he's a great dad, you know, he was going to the school, he was this, he was that. And then now that he filed for divorce, all of a sudden he's the worst person in the world. Makes no sense. And there's also a pattern of history of these restraining orders, protective orders with the mother of, you know, the mom. So, and that's kind of like where this is coming from now. Now he's a bad person because he's getting divorced. So now he's the worst person in the world. So here's a pattern of history to show that, you know, the mother did it also to her ex. So,
You know, brother, I am actually going to save that one. And when the attorney Chris Smith is on tonight, that's one I definitely want to hear from. I might have got some of these calls mixed up. So if that was what you was meaning that for, I'm going to make sure. But I do want to speak on this because I might not be able to speak on it from the legal realm. But, you know, hearing, oh, she accused me of wanting to murder them. She accused me of this. She accused me of this. She accused me of this. When we're talking about, you know, alienation, these alienators, I know what that's like to hear some of that stuff. I do. And especially like if you're not familiar with alienation and gaslighting and stuff like that, you'll be reading it like, what in the heck am I reading, or what in the heck am I hearing? And it's most of the time, Robert, it's not you know, like little white lies. It's extreme, right? Like this. He's threatening to kill me. He's threatening to do this. It's these extreme things that, for the most part, I think people would say, yeah, that doesn't sound right. Unfortunately, I think because of the bias, there is people that will buy into it. There is, for every point you make right now, or for every view you have, there's somebody that has the opposite. And a lot of them use social media or what have you to get people to support in on it. But my main statement on that is, why do you think the alienators do that? Obviously, it's because of control and stuff. But I think sometimes when they do this, they believe that if they say it, it speaks it into reality, right?
right.
And I think many times, I mean, you guys tell me, maybe you haven't experienced the same thing or haven't observed this, but it's like if I speak it, it's going to be in existence. And it's almost like they know that they're making an allegation in the beginning, but you give them 5 minutes later, they'll think it's truth. That's the scary thing about it.
Yep.
It starts off as an allegation. I know I'm using a dirty tactic. 5 minutes later, it's going to be truth.
In
What
their
do you
head.
think?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially if you have, you know, narcissistic or any of that kind of conditions or any kind of mental health issues, it becomes reality in their head. Now, this guy also, it sounded like it was a fairly new allegation. You know, it was probably his Thanksgiving too. So the person had to come up with some kind of form of physical violence to get that protective order, restraining order. And that's where these allegations are coming from. They won't issue a protective order, restraining order unless there's some kind of unless there's any threat of physical violence. And that's probably what he's going through, is holiday hijacking right now. So I can almost promise you that's what they're trying to get done, is, you know, they're trying to take his Christmas, his New Year's, and all the other stuff. So
getting back to that conversation and, them thinking that if they speak it, that it becomes truth and stuff like that. A lot of times I said, some of it is so blatant that anybody can stand back and say, oh, this is ridiculous. This just has to be fabricated. What was it? That was the thing I was thinking when watching the Johnny and Amber case with the wine bottle that he was supposedly using on her and all these other things. It's like, oh my God, which I know them Hollywood people can probably be freaks, but even then it sounded next level. I mean, let's be honest. There's another side of this, guys, that I want you to be aware of. And these to me are the most dangerous that we talk about in this community. There are some of these, Robert, and I don't know if you've came across it, that when making these allegations, they can give you 99% truth.
It's half truths is what they do. They mix in a little bit of truth, and then all these, they ramp it up.
And you have to be really extremely careful, because that's part of what gaslighting does. You know that what you're hearing is not right, but because they use those half truths like you're talking about, it makes you second guess everything. And if you're a compassionate person, you got empathy, and if you can admit to yourself, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to make a mistake. Somehow there's going to be something I could have done better. There's going to be something I probably shouldn't have done, or something I should have done more. We are imperfect people. And if you're one of those people that want to grow, and I think we do as we get older, you want to hear criticisms and stuff. And like, you'll question, like, am I doing this? And so when you got this person with no empathy that can make these allegations mixed with this person that's wanting to hear it, so that they can make themselves a better person, and they're using these half truths and leaving out that 1%. I'm telling you, I've seen some of them so good with that little 1% that they can leave out that will flip it right back around. And you've got to pay attention. It will have you question yourself. These are the type of people that end up at therapists and not able to sleep at night. Okay.
Oh yeah. And they'll twist it on you in court too. My daughter was on medication, and I was like, hey, I have a problem with the side effects of the medication, not the medication, the side effects. And so when we got to court, the opposing counsel was like, hey, Miss Therapist, is it true that Robert had a problem with the medication? And she was like, yes. When that wasn't the truth at all. I had a problem with the side effects, had nothing to do with the medication. So then here's where they build it. And then they said, okay, Miss Therapist, if he had a problem with the medication, wouldn't you think it would put the kids in danger if he didn't give them the medication? And she was like, yes. I never not gave the kids the medication, but this is how the gaslighting, the half truths, something that turned my truth, which was I had a problem with, the side effects, and they turn it into somehow I'm not giving my kids medication and putting them in danger and all kinds of stuff. But This is what they do in court, and this is what they do, your half truths with, trying to gaslight you or whatever else, or these protective orders, restraining orders. Yeah. You just have to be mindful of it and just wait, be patient, and then, get it out there, whatever that, to explain that this is BS, whatever it is.
We got a pretty good comment here on YouTube from Without Spot or Blemish Ministry. I love this sheep. He said the narcs make the accusations while never admitting to any fault themselves. They were perfect, according to them. I agree with that. I do think that you're going to see sometimes where it'll look like some bit of remorse or something, but it is going to last 2 seconds, right? And another thing is, like, one of the biggest red flags for me is when people come up and tell me their story, and I'll ask them, so like, what is some of the things that you did? Oh, I did nothing wrong. I was, I did everything right. I mean, I was the perfect person.
I was faithful. I was this, I was that. Yeah.
Dude, being able to admit our own bullshit is a powerful thing, right? Some people look at that as a weakness. But that anybody that says they was perfect, there's nobody out there. Okay. So this is definitely a red flag. But if you get with somebody like that, and you notice when you finally sever ties, another thing that I think is important while we're on this topic is watch out for when they all of a sudden get nice and try to come back into your life, because that will flip so quick.
That's the
I
setup.
They're not communicating with me. They're not arguing with me anymore. That's another thing. They love to argue. If you got that person, they'll argue with you all the time. So if you put your distance between it, their games, the gaslighting's not working, and you see one all of a sudden that's usually high conflict, go nice. There's
Be
a plan.
careful.
There, yes, be careful. That's
Start recording.
moving back in, right? And it will flip. And I think that's, again, a person with empathy. Narcs love empathists because they're easy to control, because they want to forgive. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, Robert. I said, I've really sat down and tried to analyze, like, what could have caused this? What did they go through in their childhood? Why did I experience some of the things I did? Because I want to understand. I don't want to hate, right? And I think when all these tricks are being played, especially in family court and stuff like that, it's easy to hate that other person. I want to understand. But you're never going to get that on the other side. You're an empathetic person. You want to forgive. You want to do the co-parenting thing. But that person will only use that conversation to get you reeled back in, because you pulled away. You pulled away from me. We got to get that tug of war going again, right?
I had someone in the support group have a restraining order, and she needed help. So she had a restraining order on one of the guys in the support group, and it was a false one, but the judge granted it. So she needed help to go to work, and she couldn't get anybody. So she called him to come get the kid but there was a restraining order. And he asked me, I was like, look, dude, you need to get an attorney for this one. But I can tell you, if you go get that kid and she flips it, then you'll be in trouble again. And he ended up going and getting the child. And they did this for actually 2 to 3 months, that they ignored the protective order, restraining order. And because she had to work, she gave the dad the kid, which was great. He was super happy about it. But as soon as he said, can you put this in writing, she flipped on him and called the cops the next time he came over and said he was violating the protective order, restraining order. Thank goodness he had kept a journal to show the cops that, look, I'd been over here for the last 90 days. Here's the text, here's the phone calls. They didn't arrest him or anything else. And so thank goodness he kept a journal. But that's how easy he could have ended up in jail had that cop not looked at that evidence. So,
we got to stop and think too, and I want the movement or anybody that's going through this or listening to these programs or studying on this issue to realize this too. We need the world to hear what's going on. At the same time, for people on the outside, like if they would have heard these conversations that we were just having, they would think we're crazy because they haven't been through it. That's one of those things when you're going through it. And if you've ever found yourself in one of those, like the high conflict part of that, I remember like myself, man, just sitting there like, wake up. I thought I was dreaming. It was like this. There's no way. This is so crazy. It couldn't even be written in Hollywood. Wake up.
Yep.
And so if somebody would have came and told me some of these situations that you're hearing from these guys, I would have said, there's just no way. I was like, this is just extreme. And so they brought up a good point, which is why I'm going there. They said people with empathy are also willing to overlook other people's sins. The narcs take advantage of this and blame the empath for what they've done. Then the empath protests and looks guilty. So a lot of times, when we're going back to that conversation of allowing them back in, they seem like they're nice. Oh, I'm finally going to be able to co-parent. It's died back down. I let them back in my life. And then they flip on you again. So what do? Guys, you can either go crazy or you can say, I'm not playing the game anymore.
Yep.
And when you don't play the game anymore and you do not communicate, you're the deadbeat. That's sad, man. That's sad.
You know, what's
it's
funny is
and people say it. I'm not trying to cut you off. People say it's not because of the bias. It is 100% because of the bias. That is what allows that to happen. Family court allows one parent to have the upper hand and one to have nothing. Okay, and if that one person that has control has this is dangerous, man. This is dangerous.
It's funny. I was watching a TikTok or whatever, and it had Steve Harvey on there, and he's always saying stuff. But it was funny because this person was trying to explain to him, that they keep going back to their ex and blah blah blah, and they were like, "Well, I think it's because I'm an empath, is why I keep forgiving and forgetting." And he's like, "What the hell is an empath?" And then they explained, well, it's because, I feel for the person, blah, 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 whatever. And I keep forgiving them. And he goes, "I don't know what an empath is, but you're gullible." He was like, if that's what you're telling me, he's just like, if you're an empath and this is the definition of it, he's just like, I don't know what that is, but you're gullible and you keep being gullible. And until you change that, then you're not going to get anywhere. But I thought it was hilarious because it reminded me when they said empath.
Yeah, well, and empath, narcissist, bipolar personality disorder, schizophrenia, all these things that get used they're 100% real conditions. That was one thing I enjoyed talking to Dr. Brooks about yesterday, where it's became almost dangerous with some of these titles that we're using. I know here on the show we're using that to connect because we know what it means, right? But in a lot of these relationships, and I've seen some of the extreme alienators calling the ex the alienator, flying monkey, the whole 9 yards, narcissist, and these have become buzzwords almost to the point people have heard these so much. I mean, dude, I could go up on Facebook, Google, YouTube right now, and just type in narcissist, and you're gonna find hundreds, if not thousands, of pages. It's going to be narcissist this, narcissist that. So I think people have become desensitized to it. And like I said, it's the buzzword now. And having these conversations and describing the behaviors, especially if you're in court, don't go in there diagnosing anybody. You're not there to diagnose.
And if you bring these words in, you cannot tell the judge that she's a narcissist or your attorney or anything unless they've been diagnosed by a professional psychologist. Don't do it. Don't use it.
Well, and let's say this too. In many cases, you could be right? You could be right. Remember when we talked about the alienation early on and saying that how an alienator, they think if they say it, it's true, right? So they'll make these statements. Because if I can get it out there, if I can put a label on them, or I can put an allegation, it's going to be true. This is going to look like the same thing in many cases because it's happening so much, man.
Yeah.
I know that there is a relationship that really breaks up nowadays. It's not, you'll see both sides. Just they're narcissist this, narcissist whatever. Man, if they got a label or whatever, get in there, show the behaviors, and show that you're not going to participate. Document, guys, through this week and every other week. Through the rest of the year. Most important thing I can tell you is document, because that shows behaviors. We're not worried about the
label. And same thing with parental alienation. Be careful of that word too. Unless your kids are alienated from you, it's not parental alienation. Now there's behaviors, and you can say that, there's bad mouthing, there's all kinds of stuff that you can describe. But unless your kids are alienated from you, I would stay away from the parental alienation, or you can say that there's parental alienation tendencies or behaviors. But unless you're an alienated parent, that word does not apply.
Well, so it's something that, especially in the feminist part of the world, they've tried to say that parental alienation is just a way for rapist fathers and bad people to get custody in court. It's just a tactic. And so with it being used so much on both sides, and I think the same thing with a bunch of these terms, they just don't hold weight.
Yeah.
They do not hold weight. And then
their courts desensitized.
I mean, got to be honest here. we know what a lot of these majority of the cases are doing, but I have seen the cases where a father has claimed the mom was alienating him, okay, and then she gets he gets custody, and we have some of the cases like the Valva case, right, where the dad was abusing the child and stuff, and so it has happened. It has happened. Caden's law, I think that's one of the most dangerous out there. I empathize so much with that mom for losing her child and for what that dad did. At the same time, they are wanting to strike down parental alienation altogether. They don't want expert witnesses. And if there's an allegation, it's believed. It's basically what that thing is setting off to do. And I empathize with her so bad. But you can't take one situation and paint everybody with the same brush. And we don't either. Even if we talk about the bias in court and father's rights, we always say, yes, it can happen on the other side. We are aware of that. We want equality, not superiority. Right now, we're far, far, far from equality. But I'm not going to take one case and say, hey, that does this to the whole system. And that's what they're doing with that Caden's law. That is scary.
Yep.
Scary. Any of those legislators or any of those little feminist or domestic violence groups that are trying to come against us with that, I want you to get online and look how many times a child has died at the hands of a mom. Does it happen with dads too? Yes, it happens on both sides. So why do we write laws that reflects one side of the argument? We can't do that. We can't do that. That's why it becomes a father's rights issue, that particular one. A lot of this in family court. But, it's just at the end of the day, equality, and watch out, because that's what's going on with these buzzwords now. I mean, they're buzzwords. They're real. We know parental alienation is real. We know narcissism is rampant. Everybody's on the spectrum, right? But guys, you got social media right now where I got to post a picture, my makeup every few seconds. I got to get the likes and all that. You don't think that doesn't contribute to narcissism? Like people that can't get out of their own selves, that need the constant need for attention.
You have makeup on top of filters, and then filters on top of editing.
The TikToks. I mean, we live in a world where that is just rampant, and a lot of us contribute to it. But we've got to make sure that there is a certain. This is hard, man. I hate trying to figure it out on live video. These are some of the conversations we have, offline, is like how to portray the overall problem and make sure. I don't know if we're going to be able to portray the overall problem and make sure everybody's included. You're going to have all these little different things. So sometimes we have to talk about, here's the main issue right here, right? But I don't know what's going on with the Caden's law stuff. I've been on a break, and for anybody that hasn't seen that, read up on it. That's scary, man. It really is. But
I was looking at one of the comments. Borderline personality disorder plays a part in the mental health illness as far as in these situations as well. Yeah, Angelina, you're right. We've had several professionals, even doctors on the show, talking about how bad those borderline personalities are the worst as far as alienation and what they do to children and false allegations.
There is a fear of abandonment. It always comes back to abandonment. If you leave me, you abandon me. You don't deserve to have, or a child, you don't deserve to have this or this. And that really, I believe, when you're talking about that particular subject, it goes back. You want to find out why that person is the way they were, go back to how they were raised and their parents.
I just Googled the definition. It says borderline personality disorder is a mental health disorder that impacts the way you think and feel about yourself and others, causing problems functioning in everyday life. It includes self-image issues, difficulty managing emotions and behavior in a pattern of unstable relationships.
Yeah, very short relationships. They're hot and then gone. I've seen that. I definitely have. But, like I said, though, man, I think if you look at what that person is going through. Remember that conversation we had earlier about how there is some of the grandparents of the alienator, the parents of the alienator, and how they will contribute to the alienation instead of saying, hey, you need to stop this. Well, who do you think they learned it from? There
It's
was
being passed down.
something about those adverse childhood experiences, I think, that got passed on, and now this generation's carrying it on, right? But you know what? We're not going to be able to go through the whole spectrum right now. It's a big one, and we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes.
It goes by quick, doesn't it?
It does, man. And like I said, I'm getting back in the saddle. Man, we've had some great guests on in the past week. I mean, Brooks McKenzie knocked it out of the park yesterday, guys. If you didn't hear that conversation, I mean, here was a psychologist that was calling out the whole system, and that was so important for me because I think many times, like the attorneys, the politicians, the judges, and stuff, they become the main part of the conversation. But there is a swamp out there when talking about these family law experts, right? Some of them cost way more than the attorneys, and then they'll mess up that case just so that they're needed more and can keep those billable hours. It is a swamp. It really
He
is.
breaks it down pretty well. So if you definitely go back and hear that, if you didn't hear Brooks McKenzie yesterday, he's here in Texas, and he testifies a lot in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, so that was a great conversation. Dwayne Ward, man. I just met him not long ago. Great conversation. Of course, I had you, and it was good to connect with Jeff Morgan again. David Henderson, I've had a few people that wrote about that. I'll give some updates on that later. It will happen. It will happen. But other than that, we will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to say it for the 10th time. Give us a voicemail, 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281, and ask your question to attorney Chris Smith. I'm looking forward to doing this with him, and I think there's going to be many more shows like this to come. There is one that is in the works right now that I can't wait to tell people about. I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but there will be a lot of happy people on that one.
Yeah, and definitely come in tonight at 8 o'clock. Like you said, there's an attorney, and he knows what's going on in the system and wants to change it. So if this is your chance, definitely tune in, because you're going to hear a lot of stuff, and stuff that you would be like, oh yeah, the court system's this or that. He'll tell you and show you why that's real.
So without spot or I'm just going to pull it up, because this is a behind the scenes thing that people need to understand, and I'll get criticized for it 50 times today, and people don't understand what we're doing here sometimes. He said it's troubling that groups like yours uncover Watergate level corruption and the stories get very little traction. Almost all of these channels have less than 15,000 YouTube subs and not many views, and I'm going to explain to you why that is. Now, if you go, our social media channels are killing it. Dad Talks About It hit 500,000. We just hit 100,000 followers on Instagram. And so YouTube was a little bit different. I've done my homework on this. You could be the best content creator out there. I mean, just top-notch production, the whole 9 yards. This is, in many ways, a dead subject. If you go into Google search engine optimization, look up parental alienation, you get some traction, but compared to other things, love advice is like one of the top. People want dating advice.
Maybe we ought to switch to love advice.
I'm not doing that, dude. I'm a 2-time loser myself. I don't come on here to tell everybody what to do in their relationship. Hell, I come on here to say I screwed up. Don't do what I did, But that's one of those things that, again, you could be the best content creator, but it's not being searched as much. And so with Dad Talk Today, there's so much that could be under that. And I think there's been many people that's probably came to the platform thinking it's going to be all things dad. And it is. At the same time, family law and what's going on with this system from the very beginning was the main thing I wanted to go at. So if you see like some immature stuff like farting or pooping or something, I had somebody ask the other day, it was like, why you got something about farting on there? I was like, because boys laugh at it. You know what, God, I think that might have been a gift. If you fart, don't tell me you don't laugh. And every one of you do it. And then The other thing is about that is I am a dad with girls. Okay, I didn't think they did stuff like that. Boy, did I learn. Some of them are worse than the boys. Robert, am I lying?
No, I got a house with 4 girls in it, and I'm like, wow, like some of the stuff is very surprising.
Yeah. So we try to mix the humor and stuff in there because the last thing I want is somebody that's going through this, and then when they come in here, this is all they consume. You can laugh. It's okay to be happy. And I'm going to tell you, laughter and humor is one of the best medicines that you're ever going to have going through this right here. Because once you start consuming this and it takes over, it is very hard to separate yourself from it. I've went through it. I have went through it, and it was like, no matter how you know I have, Robert. No matter how hard I tried to take a break, I just couldn't get away from it because I think it's one of those when you're fighting for your kids, you feel like any minute that you're not, or any second that you're not spending fighting for this, that you're not doing everything you can, and
Yep.
so your balance just gets all out of whack. So I want to make sure that the humor is getting mixed in there, and that we're also getting people from the outside in. So once they get in here and say, you know what, these guys are pretty funny, or I enjoy this page. What are they talking about on this show? And then we start teaching other people that might not necessarily tune in. Most of you had no idea that this was going on until you were going through it. Well, so guess what? If we just talk to people that are going through it, we're in an echo chamber because the people that can change it, that don't know about it, aren't coming. So when we do some of this stuff sometimes, or if it's not family, it's for a reason. And because we're trying to find balance, right? But that was a long way of saying yes, to the commenter on YouTube. It is just not a huge topic. If we went and did love advice, or we went and talked about, I mean, dude, we could do cars. It would knock it out of the water. But it's a fight that's worth it, right? It's a fight that's worth it, and so we're constantly trying to find new ways of getting that out there. So I mean, there's some of these guys, dude, and Warren, and Paul, and all that have been doing this for years.
Yep.
I mean, like decades, and so we'll get it. I think I was talking to Paul Elam about this yesterday. I know some people think it was a spectacle. Do not underestimate the power of the Johnny Depp case. Whether you thought he was as guilty or whatever, that was the first time people that normally wouldn't tuned in. And so for anybody that doesn't know what it is, we're talking about right here, if they can't relate to anything else, a good bit of them watch that case. And then there's your conversation starter. Okay. And so that was it. So that was the biggest thing that broke into the mainstream behind this issue. So I would definitely pay attention to that one. But I don't know who he's talking to right here, but he said that's one pretty man. Are you talking about Robert or?
No, he's not talking about me.
Yeah, he ain't talking about you.
I think he was talking about a story that we were talking about because there's a delay. I do want to thank a lot of the stepmoms and moms that are coming in the group too, that are supporting the men, because it's not just men going through this. Your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other is going through this too, the same time you're going through it. And so, oh my God. I don't even know what to say now. So, thanks, Dr. Brooks. Damn, now I lost what the hell I was saying. Anyway, okay, there it was. So
took your breath away.
Yeah. All the stepmoms and everybody that come in here, your significant others, go buy them flowers, appreciate them every once in a while, just surprise them with something, and same thing for the women, surprise your man with something, take him. You know what I just did with my son is we went, I'd never been there. We went go-karting for the first time. And it was amazing. Just go surprise someone with, just drive up to a go-karting place indoor. They have several of them here in Dallas. They're pretty fun.
So let's talk about that for a second, man. Like any of these ladies that are going through family law, even though if it was like the father on the other side, when you see father's rights, guys, cheer them on. And let me tell you why. One, they need a safe place to talk in. They are the majority. Okay. We are talking about a very lopsided battle here, 82.5%. Does that still mean there's 17.5% that it could be you? Yeah. So there's going to be some of those in there, but you're going to need that majority to stand up and fight and say, hey, this system is crooked. And many times the feminists who aren't like you, they don't support those fathers' rights. They come in here and make fathers look like we are women bashing. They talk very loud. They try to shut them up. Okay. We need to cheer them on, because here's the difference between that feminist society and this father's rights arena right here. Feminists are all about just women's rights, women's rights, women's rights. And even though over here we're talking about father's rights, the end goal for father's rights is equality. And equality for a father is equality for a mother, it's equality for the children. Everybody, we are fighting for equality. You got one side wanting superiority, one side wanting equality, right? And so cheer these guys on, because they are the majority. And if every once in a while when they see this, they get a little upset, you have no idea what some of these guys have been through.
Yeah.
Look past the emotion. Nobody's listening to me. I've been screwed over in court. I've had everything taken away from me. They are ready to explode, right? But I promise you, as you can see right now, we always make sure to set the story straight. And the boys that criticize us the most, Robert, are never hear one of these episodes. They only stick around when they see something every once in a while to tell you what you're wrong. And that's what I've seen about I need to get some of those feminists on the show is what we need to do.
Yeah. But thanks everybody for your support. We do recognize all of you all in the comments and stuff like that. And, we see that y'all support us, liking, sharing, stuff like that. Angelina just went through a big deal. She just got, well, I don't even know if she wants me to say it on here. I think she'll be okay. So, no, I better not. Anyway, but men and women both go through a lot of stuff, and the attorney general made a mistake on Angelina's case, and they got it figured out now. But she still went through some stuff on that. And so, there's people going through this stuff all the time. And if you're going through it, come in the support group. Dad Talk Today support group is different than Dad Talk Today. The support group is there with a bunch of advocates and everything else for you to come in there. And that's where you want to get all your stuff answered and questions.
Support only. The only other thing that we'll do in there outside of somebody venting or asking a question is every once in a while, we might share the show over to the group. Besides that, all of the trash gets deleted. That is a safe community where you can talk. On the other side, talking about this, Julie Pruitt, here's another one from the very beginning that supported Dad Talk Today. I saw earlier what she was talking about. She is now an alienated grandparent. And this is something that the Father's Rights Group, and if you're one of the fathers on the page, that makes that hard, is we need warriors like this. My biggest supporters, the reason this show is going, is moms who's got a son that's going through it, or stepmoms that saw this and wants the system to change. And these are the warriors right here that, to be honest with you, they're louder than the men. They are. Because as much as I give hell to the feminists, the one thing that I can't stand that I see all the time, and I used to hate this word, Robert, I really did, but the more I see it, the more it fits, is what they call the simps. Okay? It's the guys that will put down other guys in hopes of getting attention from women, or like
sympathy from other women.
Yeah, they want attention from women, so it comes at the expense of, oh, I'm a real man, I'll put him down for you, baby, type, because they're hooked on that female attention. You can get on somewhere, man. Dude, those are the ones that get under my skin the most. It's like, don't come in here making fun of one of my brothers. And you know who else? I get a problem with it. I give a lot of props to stepmoms. I would rather have a stepmom in here way more than I would a stepdad most of the time. There's a lot of stepdads that's been through this, and they get it, and then they're respectful. But there's also the other one. I got with this woman who gave them this story about who their ex was, and just believes it without finding out who that man is, and helps alienate and thinks he's going in and fulfilling the role that another man isn't being allowed to. And,
Yeah.
and they take up for him, man. That's what I call the simps. Disgust me, man. There's nothing holding you back from going over to that guy besides pride and finding out what's going on. Because you know what? When you find out, I could have went over there and found out why them two broke up instead of just going along with it. And then later on, it becomes you. And then you're looking back at that. Now you want to talk to him.
Exactly. After it happened to you, now you want. Yeah.
Man, I hadn't talked to you the whole time. I kept you away from your kids and everything like that. I believed everything she said. But now that I'm going through something, did she do this to you? Because I need it. I need it for court. Would you go and testify for me? Where were you when I was going through this? And there's some guys that take up for that, and you wonder why these men can't get along. So I'll tell you right here on this page, sometimes men are the worst people to be talking to other men because they show up and try to down them.
Yeah.
When I see it, that shit don't fly, brother.
Now remember when you get in another relationship, if this woman has done that to another man, guess what she's going to do to you? Be careful in your next relationship. Watch the flags.
Yep. All right, man. Tom Buddy Fitzpatrick said, I believe the good women and believe in good men really helped me get through it. Now I'm an alienated grandparent. Let me tell you how loving this community can be at times. There's times that it makes me want to pull my hair out. It is. Hurt people hurt other people, so it can be hard to navigate at times. But Robert, when we was going across the country last year, we met some amazing people. There wasn't a capital that we went to that we didn't tell people we was going to be there, and people didn't show up and march those capitals with us.
Yeah.
And we went to a lot of them. Here's one of the men. I'd never met him, and it was kind of cool. You know, even though you might only get, 12 or 50 likes or whatever when you do a broadcast, or 1,000 views, 2,000 views, you don't realize just who those 1,000 or 2,000 people that are watching is, right? And you don't know. There's a lot of times I repeat myself because I'm like, I don't know if people remember it or not, but I say a lot of the same stuff. I know I do, guys, and I'll continue to do that. But every once in a while we get on our tangents and get to talk a little bit about who we are. My thing has always been, I love pizza. I love pizza, man. And the first time I meet this gentleman, he shows up at the Capitol in New Hampshire, I believe it was, with 2 large pizzas and then a whole back seat full of groceries, man. Me and Robert did 2,500
miles.
It was thousands of miles. We did like 15 states in a week and a half. I don't even think it was a week and a half. I think it was like a week. We did the whole Northeast.
It was crazy.
And this was during COVID. So at that point in time, and we had no idea. It was completely different than where I'm from. If you didn't get something to eat by 5 o'clock, you're screwed. They was closed.
Restaurants closed, gas stations closed, everything closed.
I mean, you could not even a snack. You're not going to get anything. It was closed. They couldn't find any workers, and then the COVID restrictions and everything. So this guy really saved us, because when he showed up, not only did he have those 2 pizzas, but he had big old thing of coconut water, another big
Twizzlers, all kinds of stuff,
popcorn. Like, you have no idea how many times we ate that particular week, and it saved us because we couldn't get to a restaurant. So we was eating popcorn and Twizzlers. We was dang sure proud to have it.
Yeah. Thank you again, Tom.
And everybody, tell them thank you. It's little guys like that. Here's some of the heroes you might not hear from as much, because we couldn't have done what we did without you guys. And I'm thankful for all the relationships that I've made doing what we're doing here. But because you commented, Tom, and because I want to go out on a funny note, I want to put that humor in, like we said. Robert, talking about the pizza, talking about the coconut water, you know what's coming.
That's right. We were trying to do a good deed, and there was a homeless guy that was at a stoplight, and Eric thinks, okay, we're about to go to an airplane. We're going to give him some of the stuff. So, he gives him a pizza, and the homeless guy's super excited about it. And then Eric's like, "Oh, give him some, some coconut water or whatever." So Eric hands him like 2 or 3 or something, and he fumbles one of them, and it falls under the car.
You gotta do it better than that, man. Come on, like he reminded me, like a homeless guy, right? He reminded me of Tommy Chong in a way. And that's what, you ever went to like a homeless guy or somebody standing on the street and you give them a dollar bill or you give them something and they'll just take it or they're not thankful or whatever. This guy, when he had that pizza, we was going to hand him a whole pizza because we had ate the one and he had got us 2 pizzas, man. There was no way we was going to eat all this food. And so, anyway, I went to give him that pizza and he's like, "Oh man, thanks, man." He's like, "I'll just take a slice." "No, I'm not going to take your whole pizza." He was such a nice guy. You could tell. And I was like, "No, man, it's yours." He was, "Oh my God, thanks, man. Thanks, man." So
Very appreciative.
I saw the appreciation. I was like, man, we're not going to go through this stuff. He's like, "Let's hook this guy up." So I got like 3 bottled water. He's like, "Hey man, here's you something to drink too." He's like, "Oh man," this guy was almost in tears, And so then I handed him the 3 coconut waters, and I'll let you take it from there. I just wanted people to have that Tommy Chongus, like, "Yeah, thanks, man."
Yeah, he did look like Tommy Chong. And so we're at the red light, right? And so I handed the coconut waters, and I'm facing backwards and looking at him because the window's right here. And all of a sudden, the light turns green. And when Eric hands it to him, one of them rolls under the thing. Well, I'm still in the back seat looking down at him because I'm like, "Oh crap," like he's bending down, and I can kind of feel the car going forward, and I'm like, "Oh crap." And as he bends down to grab this coconut water, I guess it's under the tire. So when Eric rolls over it, the guy's bending down, I can see his face, and all of a sudden this just like poof, water just goes everywhere on him, and he gets up and he's just like, "Ah." And I'm watching all this happen, and Eric's taking off because, the light turned green. And this guy had coconut water all over him. And it was like, and we couldn't even turn around to say, "I'm sorry," nothing, because then there was this big, we're getting on a freeway. Anyway, I can't even imagine, but now he's sticky with coconut water. But it was crazy to watch. It was like slow-mo, this water just going like this and him just like whoosh. It was like straight out of a commercial.
It wasn't a little splash. It was the whole thing, man.
The whole bottle.
And it fell
exploded.
under the tire, and it couldn't have been more messed up. And the bending. I wanted to tell that guy I was sorry so bad. You know what? If he ever sees this, we are sorry. We're going to laugh about it. I'm sure now that you've watched it off, you would laugh about it too, because we were nice people. We were trying to bless him, and it turned into a curse. Anyway, we got more stories like that. You'll have to tune in later this week at a new time. Sometimes we do that like radio stuff. Welcome, WVRK, The Ride. All right, we got to get up. Okay. We got a show later on, 8:00 p.m. Eastern. Get me those voicemails in. 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. We will see you later on tonight.
That's right. Tune in.
Hey, everybody. Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.